This episode of the Inside Running podcast is powered by Lululemon. You can shop Lululemon's complete head-to-toe selection of running gear made to take your run further, in-store and online at lululemon.com.au. Enjoy the show.
Being a skin can bring you so much pain. Now I hear you say you got the best of both ways.
Welcome to episode number 349 of the Inside Running podcast. Thanks for joining us for another week. We've got a big show coming at you this week. We got the Gold Coast Marathon news. We've got a bit of news around selection and selection details getting leaked early. We've got a listener question, Moose on the Loose. We've got two very big name guests also going to join us on stage here live at the Gold Coast. So a massive thanks to all the people who rocked up and are in the audience looking at me right now. A massive thanks to Lululemon for supporting the Inside Running podcast throughout this weekend. They're a great brand that we work with a couple of times throughout the year, and this is by far the biggest live audience we've ever spoken in front of. So we massively thank the audience who's rocked up here today, the support from Lululemon as well. Both my co-hosts look beautiful in their outfits. And if you come into the connection and celebration event afterwards, you're sure to be treated pretty nicely up there as well. Let me introduce you to our co-host. He's a 2:14 man, the only man that we sent to the 2019 World Championships in Doha. He's won the Great Ocean Road Marathon 4.5 times and possibly could be the most influential person in Australian distance running. Julian Spence, welcome to this week's episode.
Yes, thanks for having me here, mate. It's a pleasure to be here on the sunny Gold Coast. It's also a pleasure to see you living out your boyhood dream of being a king influencer.
Definitely not the case, but it has been a busy weekend. My other co-host is a 2:17 marathon man. I got a first-person view of him at his best today as the king of pacemaking at the Gold Coast Marathon. Wollongong Half Marathon champion recently as well, and missing his son's 4th birthday to be here. Bradley Croker, welcome to you.
Thanks, Brady. It's nice to be here this year, given I had to be on the sidelines last year. And so I'm a bit overawed by how many people here, because our first live show was back in 2019 at the Broadbeach Bowling Club. We didn't actually have a room. It was just next to the bar, and I think we had about 40 tickets available. Hands up if you were at that show back in 2019.
About 5 people. There was literally a guy eating a steak sandwich like next to where we were recording. People playing pokies, like the ding-dongs were going off as we were talking. So
it's a big step up.
Yeah, we've come a long way. So thanks for being here, ladies and gents. We're going to go through some running weeks first. Do you want to kick things off, Moose? Because you've had a very, very impressive training week from a guy who had an injury a couple of weeks ago.
Well, like I said, training camp this week. So I had a few bets placed last Sunday long run, so it really kicked me into gear. We ran 8K in Anglesea, just a cruisy one on Monday, and then flew up to the Gold Coast very early. Had the toddler on the plane. That was always fun. A couple of plane trips, actually.
How was that trip? We spoke about it last week. Did you make the most of business class up the front?
Domestic business ain't the same as international business, just a bigger seat up the front.
Yeah, okay.
It was nice to be in the lounge beforehand. I know you didn't rate it, but you can get free coffees. And I think all the money we saved by eating in the lounges, it actually equals like the difference in fare cost.
Did Pia enjoy a Sydney life experience?
Oh, yeah, we really got out.
Cultural experience, wasn't it?
Yeah, straight from the plane to the lounge and off we go. Tuesday, we got up here about lunchtime and I got out for a run after Brady and just got to experience surfers' paradise in all its glory. Pouring rain, very windy. I ran up to the spit from where we're staying, just down in Surfers. It's about 8K up and back. 15 minutes on the concrete, then you hit dirt, and you actually get 15 minutes more running. So the middle half an hour is dirt, and it's worthwhile running out there. It's a lot quieter. It's hard to believe that you're really on the surfer's paradise when you get out there, because I think I only spotted one other runner. And yeah, half an hour of running on the dirt before I head back. very flat, and it's hard to control your pace because there's so many people on the concrete section that you get a little competitive. I kind of had a bit of croaker pace going on, and some throwful flatness. So those two combined, got a better
isn't it?
Best of both worlds.
Your ego definitely would have kicked in though. Did anyone go past you, or was it just a matter of you passing people?
I don't think I'd let anyone pass.
Yeah.
I worked out with Toby the next day. So Toby's up here too. I'm not sure why, but he came up. He hates it more than I do up here. He ran 5 by 6 minutes. I went off his heart rate. I've got to make that clear because these are terrible paces here. He's not as fit as what he used to be. Yeah, I'm not sure if he's here today, but I'm sure Strava tells all. There's no hiding on there. So we did this from Kurrawa Surf Club running back towards Surfers just before the roadworks. It's a bit of a shame, really. There's it's not a beautiful path, but there's a path along the beach that kind of can link up Surfers through to Broad Beach down towards Miami, but there's like construction going on, so they send you onto the road again. So we went out and back. It was a workout that wasn't too impressive, but it was good to get it done. The next day I ran in the morning by myself, and then I doubled. I ran with Reese Edwards for a little bit, and it was pitch black, like dark, and there were still people shouting his name as we ran past.
Really?
Yeah.
They shout your name as well, or just Reese?
No, just Reese. He is a recognisable character. I think it's his. He's got like a real presence because he's tall and he leans forward a lot,
and he looks like an elite runner the way he moves.
His
technique
he
is beautiful.
I know. I had to as soon as he turned around, we met each other, and I turned around. I was like, "Oh wow, you feel so bouncy next to me." It's good to see. You can sort of see why he's such a good runner. He's also a character, and I reckon it comes through on the podcast that people feel like they kind of can go up and chat to him because he's so approachable.
And he's really honest.
Yeah, he is. And he was confident too. He was confident when I was running with him. Went out for an hour, ran down to Burleigh. I think I got to Burleigh Heads and back. It's pretty awful going that way. You have to run on the road a fair bit. And it's like, I think I said it last year, that it feels like the town's been built for developers, not for the public. Because all the beachfront stuff just limits access, and so you end up everyone just walks their dogs on the side of the road. It doesn't feel like they could have made it pretty special up here, but they haven't. I did a workout Saturday arvo after Bree went and ran the half marathon, so I was on dad duties and then got out in the afternoon. Did the same workout actually, 5 by 6 minutes, but just to prove that I was a lot fitter than Toby, I ran to my heart rate this time. It was better. It was 3:16, 19, 19, 13 and 17. The heart rate was a lot higher, but I was looking forward to posting that on Strava and him seeing it when I got back.
How much recovery?
Yeah, 60 or 90?
90 seconds, just walking. Walking for a minute, then I'd jog for a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What shoes do you wear?
Alpha 3. And jog the warm-up in Alpha, cool down in Alpha. Real flex out there. And if you fit in, everyone jogs in super shoes up here.
It's not a flex anymore. Even at the expo, you just wear your super shoes everywhere.
Yeah, there's a certain travelling marathoning tourist that also likes to walk in super shoes a lot. Yeah. Don't know whether anyone picked that up, but it's a thing.
It's a Norwegian running thing too. When I met them in Valencia, all had super shoes on for the 20-minute shakeout the day before. Shows people got too much money sometimes.
I get it on the concrete up here. That is a harsh place to run. And I think the only time that I would enjoy it is if I had the most cushioned shoes on. So I can actually see why you would do it up here. Croaks and we would never do it where we live. But, I mean, if you could probably tinker with it.
Yeah. If only I had a mate who owned a shoe store who could hook me up with more super shoes.
I'd say I'll give you a discount on that stuff if you want. Today was the main day, the main event. And I jumped in, banded it, kind of. Race was sold out, so I think I've got a reasonable excuse here, fellas. I know I've gone at people about that before, but I jumped in at 8K to the group that was about 5,000 deep, running 410s. Jumped in with my friend Carla, who is here. Congrats, Carla. She ran a PB today, so she'll up and about on the beers later. We ran pretty even down. I was surprised that the wind wasn't as bad as it has been the last week. So I thought we got pretty lucky with that. The course was, I found it nice going into the highway. Actually, I thought it opened up more space. It was a little bit less clogged than what I've seen going through the Broadbeach area on that little alley type area. And then once we turned around, the tailwind wasn't quite as pronounced as what I thought it was. It wasn't as beneficial, I don't think, that people were sort of talking about pre-race. And even the plans we discussed with Carla was to sort of let that wind get her going a lot in that 20K back up to the top, back up to Labrador. But I don't think that it was as directly behind us. I think it was a bit more cross-shore, and I don't think that I think the actual course was a lot more even rather than more one-sided tailwind, headwind today. I jumped off the course at 34K, and then I think it was about 34, and Carla and Will, her husband, ran up to the turnaround, came back, and I jumped in and ran back to the 41, 42K mark.
You
She's
are
not going
on
to
the
get
course.
DQ'd. She's not going to get DQ'd, is she?
I don't think so. Look, I don't think she's challenging
This
for
has been a moose
Matt.
on the loose before, people jumping in and pacing people when they don't have a bib on.
Yeah, but I couldn't buy a ticket.
Well, yeah, we have
The race is sold out.
we have a good relationship
I would have
with the
been
Gold
quite
Coast
happy
Marathon.
to buy a ticket.
We may not get paid, Brady, for pacing.
This is exactly what I meant by saying do not record stuff that's on the podcast.
Well, okay, so I ran on the sidewalk next to the race, all the way down to Miami. And then I ran on the footpath all the way back, and it just happened to be next to Carla.
Beautiful.
And I didn't take any gels or electrolyte. I didn't cost them any money, hopefully. But yeah, so that was 30.66K, average 4:10. I got quite hot at the end, pretty dehydrated. I had a high heart rate for most of the run. And it was pissing brown when I got back to the shower. So
Okay.
it was a bit
worked.
more of an effort than I thought it might be.
Yep. How many Ks for the week?
120, is that right?
I don't know.
I think about 120. About 120.
And where to from here now, Moose?
Bundura's in a fortnight. I think, a fortnight. So I've got to go to Bundura. The second most competitive cross-country in the country. So I had a goal of top 20 last year, didn't get it, came 23rd maybe, 24th. The year before I had a goal of top 50, and I think I just got it. And then this year I think I'm going to go top 35. Not very fit, haven't raced in a long time, haven't done any type fast stuff, but I reckon top 35 is achievable if I have a really good day.
Yeah, you got 2 weeks too. Like this stuff's still got time to kick in. Yeah, I like that. I like that from you.
And long-term plans, like eyes on a marathon?
Oh, it's hard because I don't want to book anything in because I've done that enough where I get disappointed and I start to force things. It's such a cliche call, but I want to be I want to be process driven, and I don't want goal driven stuff right now. So I need to just get back to those 2 workouts a week. What I'm going to do is more threshold stuff, like what I've done this week. I don't feel I need to do like all these intricate type specific workouts. I just want to get out there and run threshold intervals. It's probably the most safe workout for my fragility. So I need a break after 6 to 10 minutes worth, but I can do a higher volume. I'll pull up better the next day. I can still get a long run in, and I need to tuck the ego away, the competitiveness on Sundays. So that's going to be the biggest challenge for me.
Love it. You don't have to worry about a bib when you do check out a marathon anyway. Just run it.
It's actually a good call, yeah. And I don't have to register a really slow time if I have a bad day.
Croaks, over to you. What have you been doing? Give us a Monday through to Sunday.
So I kicked the week off with a rest day. I think I spoke about it last week that I was going to treat this as a bit of a down week, knowing that I'd sort of secured a spot for Melbourne. So I guess 2 weeks ago my focus was to get to the finish line today, post a respectable time to get one of those time qualifiers for Melbourne. But then once I got an elite start, I'm like, well, there's no point finishing the marathon now. So wanted to just try and give my hip a bit of a chance to sort of settle this week. So I took Monday off. Tuesday, went out to the track for a session with the group. Hip wasn't great warming up. I was a little bit concerned, but once I stopped and did some drills and strides, it sort of loosened up, and I felt pretty good for the session. So session was a 2K rep, 2 minutes recovery, then 5 times 400s off 45 seconds recovery, and then I took 2 minutes after the last 400 and did another 2K. So I ran 6:40 for the first 2K, so 3:20. So like the plan was to run these at about the pace that I have to pace, but end up being a bit quicker. So 6:40 for the 2K. The 400s were between 70 and 71, which I was actually really happy with that off 45 seconds recovery, because a couple of weeks ago when I was at the track and I was going to do Deeks quarters and I pulled the pin after 2 reps, I was running the 400s in like 75, 76 seconds and felt like I was sprinting. So I was definitely moving better. And then I ran 6:30 for the last 2K. So it gave me a fair bit of confidence, although that session during race week, like I'm not running that much faster than what I have to run for like 30 kilometres. So you're like, I do this for like close to 2 hours. And like it didn't feel super easy doing that for like 6:30.
There's something in that though for the listeners. Like how many people talk themselves out of what they're going to do on the weekend with how it feels on a Tuesday or Wednesday of race week?
Yeah, and the adrenaline you get from the race, and I'll talk about it when I get to like today's recap, but like you go through like a heap of crowd and like it's worth 5 seconds a K. Like we definitely accelerated once we got through the crowds. So Wednesday I got out for 45 minutes just out at Mulligan's at 4:17s. And then flew to the Gold Coast that afternoon actually, because I've had so many issues in the past with like cancelled flights and not getting here last year. I saw flights like in January and they were real cheap on a Wednesday. I said, Viv, can I go Wednesday? And she's like, yeah, just go. So solo trip, business trip, no kids, no wife. So yeah, got up here on Wednesday and then Thursday headed south from Broadbeach for, I guess, close to 5K. Bumped into one of the listeners actually about 500 metres from the turnaround. So he sort of yelled out and then he introduced himself and we ran about 6K together. By this stage I'm rolling sort of 406s because it is quite easy. It's flat, it's concrete, not trails. And I said, his name's Anthony from Brisbane. Shout out to Anthony. What are you running this weekend? He's like, I'm doing the half. I'm like, okay, what are you hoping to run? He's like, under 90 minutes. I'm like, we're running about 10 seconds a K faster than that right now. But he was chatting away and, made the time go pretty quick. Anthony ended up running 87 minutes, so he ran a PB, so it was all good. Didn't ruin his run. And then Friday, I was meant to meet Brady. So Brady was staying here and I was at Broadbeach and he sent me a message saying, I'm going to leave now. I'm not taking my phone, and I was out of my apartment at the time, and I rushed back, got changed, and it had been like 15 minutes, and I thought, I've missed him, so I'll head south.
Hang on, Bruce, pause the story there. If Brady's coming from the north and Croaks is in Broadbeach at the south, which direction would you run if you were Bradley Croker?
Depending on what time you left. So it was about 20. It had been about 20 minutes since you said that.
I'm a slow jogger.
Yeah.
You know I go slow.
Anyway, I thought I'd missed you, so I headed south. Didn't see Brady, and then Brady turned around before I did, and so I never saw him on the way back either. So I'm tempoing up and down the coast.
Brady, I think that's a win for you.
I know, yeah. Today was hard enough without doing a tempo on Friday.
So I ended up doing 12K at 3:56s.
Can we... All right, I'm going to jump in here because I've been following all the pros, the elites on Strava. You run faster than any of them up here.
I'm aware. Not come race day, but I wasn't racing either this weekend. So I didn't do it like... I probably would have done a second workout at some point this week, like maybe a 3K at marathon pace or something like that. And so that run sort of substituted for that. So it wasn't a session. Also, what I was doing is on the way down, it was quite windy. I wanted to sort of just check how, because it's different. Like you can run really slow into a headwind and you're like, oh, the wind's not too bad. But when you start actually moving, that's when it starts to impact your effort. So I'm like, I'm just wearing normal trainers. I'll actually like pick it up a little bit just to see how much the wind actually impacts me. And I was finding like 350s wasn't too bad. So I thought, well, if I can feel pretty comfortable running 350s in normal shoes into a pretty strong wind. Once I put the race shoes on, it's race day, 325s should feel okay. The only downside of that run was because it was wet and the shoes were a bit old and there's a bit of a camber down the south end, I was just slipping in the shoe a bit and I was starting to get a bit of a hot spot on sort of the outside of my foot. So I was like, I'm going to develop some blister before the race. And then Saturday, started in Broadbeach, ran 10 kilometres, headed north so I could bump into the Lululemon shakeout run. So I was with you guys for probably a couple of K.
Couple of minutes and then was off the front. Would be
Couple
more
of K,
accurate.
And then headed back to Broadbeach, so I ran 10K at 4:19s.
Croaks, you missed the pump-up speech that Brady did, apparently.
I've seen it on Instagram.
I had a few DMs about this.
It wasn't. It was a thank you for
I
coming.
believe
along
there's
speech.
another...
Jess wasn't there, so I was trying to choose some time.
there's
up
another
before
run
Jess
clubber that lives on the Gold Coast that you were compared to.
Who was
Also
that?
gives
yeah.
pump-up
Cody
speeches.
something? Yeah, I didn't know who this person was, but you said some kind of name.
Yeah, that's what they told me about it also.
All right, yeah.
Which brings us, I guess, to today. And so Brady and myself were pacing the lead women. So we had the technical meeting yesterday afternoon, and I was concerned all week that if they still wanted us to, because the plan was to run 72 minutes through halfway, which is fine, and I think I'm fit enough to do that. But I was concerned that predominantly the first 18K would be into a pretty strong headwind, and if they still want 72 minutes, then that's probably the equivalent of me running well under 70, which probably wouldn't leave much left in the tank for the next 5, 10K, however long I planned on running. And yesterday, the African girls were adamant that, yep, we want to run 72 minutes regardless of what the weather is. And the first thing they said was, you finished the marathon. And I'm like, no, we'll not be finishing the marathon. And then they point to Brady, you finished the marathon. No, I won't be finishing the marathon. 40K. No, I'm not going to 40K.
And she was putting pressure on us too. And I think the only word she knew was 40K. I was trying to explain other stuff to her, straight over her head, and my English isn't the best at the best of times. And then just 40K, being very aggressive. Unless it was a flirting style, I thought maybe a few croaks, but I'm not sure.
It's hard for him to resist.
Yeah.
But you could have got yourself an extra few grand out of this, Croaks, if you did the right...
That's what he was trying to talk back to her about, would you give additional payment, a private
Of
deal?
course he was.
And it was just, she didn't know what he was talking about.
You got to
I
speak
was-
to the European agents, mate, not the athlete.
I was never going to 40K, but it does remind me of our first time doing it in
Yes, that's right.
2017. We were coming up to, I think we were between 34 and 35K, and we were both going to finish at 35. And I gave the girl a bit of notice saying, we're finishing here at 35K. And she goes, no, you keep going. I pay you. And I'm like, well, we're going to try and work out some sort of contract here in this last 500 metres.
All of a sudden doesn't speak English at the finish line.
Anyway, warmed up, and I said to Brady as we were running laps around the pool, the aquatic centre, I was like, I actually feel pretty good, which obviously it's race day, there's more adrenaline, you're up for it, whereas if I was just going out to do a session, I'd probably be feeling miserable. The wind didn't seem too bad, and we got out really quick. I think we were 3:20 through the first K, and I'm like, Brady, just let's settle down, because the girls went out really quick.
Yeah, we had to work at that to get in front of them. That wasn't us banking time early.
Yeah.
That was us getting to the right spot.
And then I was still concerned at times that this headwind would be an issue, but it really wasn't. There were sections where it was noticeable, but it wasn't to the point that it really slowed you down that much. So we went through, and so our plan was to go 72 minutes, which is around 17 minutes per 5K, maybe a bit slower. So we were 17:04 through 5K, 16:49, and I'm definitely not as fit as when I've paced in the past. And so for me, it definitely felt more of probably couldn't enjoy it as much as I have in the past. It was a bit of sort of business, serious face to make sure that I at least get to halfway, because pace never felt super comfortable. And then between 10 and 15K, we sort of came out onto the highway, and it got a little bit breezy, but we still, ran sub 17, 16:58. And then a few of the K markers seemed to be in the wrong place, because I was taking manual splits every 5K and then just memorising those 5 individual K splits, and Brady was actually lapping every single kilometre. And there was a couple there where it was he's like, oh, that one's 3:30, and then there was one that was 3:13, which we knew was completely wrong. We turned at the 18K mark, and as Moo said, we didn't really notice the massive tailwind. There was times when we it did feel more of a crosswind at times. But once we got through halfway in 71:50, which was pretty much bang on.
No, 71:55.
55.
That's pretty good. Like 5 seconds off over 21 Ks.
Yeah, but if I was a coach, I would be saying, hey, if anything, the first 18K is going to be pretty hard. Let's actually go a little bit slower through halfway to make sure that we have something for later on in the race.
Yeah, but our direction was from the race. Our good friends at the Gold Coast Marathon to hit 72.00 or as close to that as possible.
Yeah, so we ran 17:12 from 15 to 20K, and largely that was because I remember our first few years doing it, I was always really worried that, because in the big international marathons, they're pretty strict with, like, if you don't hit the pace within like 10, 15, 20 seconds, they won't pay you. So it used to be trying to hit it to the second. And I'm like, Brady, we're up here. We basically just need to like subtly slow the pace down so that we're not through halfway too much faster than what they wanted.
Forget the athlete here. This is about my paycheck. But, slow them down. Well, end their day.
But Moose, I've done this a few times where it's easy for them to still be on the pace right up your clacker, and then they get to 25K and they start to fade. So you are, in a way, thinking about the athlete as well, because it's easy for us to pick it up. Yeah.
Well, let's tell them what happened in the next 5K, Bradley.
In the next 5K, so it's like, all right, we've ticked off the 21K, so we've done our sort of first job. And then I reckon part of it was tailwind, part of it is when you're coming back through like Broadbeach and Surface.
A big part of it, and the only part of it, was Broadbeach crowds, and someone got a bit excited.
It was, yeah. Well, I knew, like, at that point, I'm like, I'm working pretty hard here. I reckon 25K is probably a good distance to go as a solid session and then pull up well and be able to train next week.
So it was like kick finish moose.
Empty the tank. Forget about those athletes again.
Yeah. And also, anytime I was starting to feel a bit rough, I found if I just focused on my form, then the pace picked up. But the crowds were crazy, and it definitely is worth like 5 seconds a K, like for not putting in much more effort at all. And then we get close to 25K. So we run 16:41 from 20 to 25.
Which is, that's quicker than I ran at Ballarat Marathon when I broke 2:20.
3:20 pace.
Yeah. My marathon
2:20 marathon pace. And then just before 25K, when I said to Brady, like, I think I'm going to pull the pin here, he's like, yeah, I'm fitter than you and I'm finding this difficult, you should finish.
Which I thought was just a logical response. I was just
like,
looking after you.
No, I'll keep going another 5K. So, yeah, ran another 5 in 17:01, got to 30K, that was it. I was done then. Like, I'm glad I didn't have to run the last 12K. When Deke was given the rev-up speech before the start, he's like, the marathon starts at 30K, and I'm at like 29.5 going, I'm glad I'm not running the marathon. Stopped there, and then I basically went to the start line in a jacket and long tights with my race gear underneath, dumped that in Brady's bag so that at any point along the course, had my key in my pocket, I could just go straight back to my accommodation. I jumped on the light rail and headed home. Actually jumped into James Nipris, world champs rep in the steeple, so he's got a stress fracture of the sacrum, unfortunately, at the moment. So that was my morning. So 30K at 3 threes.
And how big's the check going home with you?
Don't know yet.
They did break the course record, though. That was good
so
for the
what happened
pacemakers.
behind you when you ran 16:40, like just
Well, what about
disintegrated the pack?
this first? What's your opinion on, like, announcing to the pace group that you're going to pull out, and it's been a pleasure to run with you ladies, and go, like, give a motivational speech? Like, what do you reckon?
Time.
Bit of me time,
big time.
At the 29.5K mark. This guy.
He doesn't train all year for this one day.
He's doing
just
a
to
TED
step
talk.
off the course.
Okay. On the flip side, I gave those girls notice that I was finishing at 30K. And then Brady said nothing. Brady just stopped, and the girls just went.
I couldn't breathe.
So I actually think it's the courteous thing to do for them to then prepare that there's not going to be a pacemaker anymore, and for them that the race now starts, as opposed to just cold turkey, you're on your own now.
So the course record did get broken, Moose, by the Japanese runner Yuki. Ran a like 6-minute PB too. Never been under 2 hours 30 before. Runs 2:24. She ran like a 25-second positive split. So that's pretty impressive today, I thought, as well. She was always snapping at her heels. But every single other person in that group like went backwards because of what Croaks did from 20 to 25K. So we got the course record out of it, and then we ruined about 20 to 25 people's day.
They were those girls were very strong though. Like, it didn't matter what pace we were running at. They were like still clipping me.
Only just broke them at the end too, didn't you?
Yeah. So. I actually wore a heart rate strap today. Changed the batteries this morning,
Some
and
good data too
might
from
send the
you.
data off to you, mate. Dan Osborne
Send
Nash,
it off tonight. Yep, we'll do that.
or your coach.
I'm going to whistle through this week because we're going.
And that was longer than his 2:17 recap.
Yeah, I don't need to recap Sunday, so I'm going Monday through to Saturday. Monday, I ran 75 minutes in the morning at 4:46 pace, and then 8K in the afternoon at 4:51s. On Tuesday, I did Moose Fartlek. I like this I was feeling a bit tired and maybe a bit sick as well. My daughter Olivia's been a bit sick lately, so I thought it's a good workout to work on effort levels. Never looked at pace. For people that don't know what that is, it's 3 minutes, like steady-ish, probably between 10K and 15K maybe effort. You're the boss of it.
I like about that,
Yeah.
10 to 15.
And then 1 minute jog, and then 1 minute hard, 1 minute jog. So each set is 6 minutes. Do that 5 times for 30 minutes. I decided not to run my afternoon run just because I'm like, I just want to get over this sickness. Wednesday, I did 90 minutes at 4:35 pace, but I had an interesting experience on this run. I was out the back blocks of like Moama, dirt roads, never seen a car on this road in my life and probably ran it 200 times. And this massive truck's coming from behind me. And I'm like, oh, here we go. This is going to be interesting. And he slows right down, and then like he's elevated in his like engine and like rough character, like truckie, neck tattoo, big beard. And he slows down, engine's roaring in my ears. I'm pulling out my headphones because he's trying to talk to me. And his question was, where are you from? And I'm like, okay, not the most like welcoming question. And I'm like, sorry? And he goes, where are you from? I said, oh, Moama, the town we're actually in, like right now as I'm running, like my house is 7K away. And then he goes, oh, you're staying at the caravan parks? And I'm like, no, I'll live here, like in Moama. And at this, like I can't really hear him that well, and it's like a broken conversation. And then he goes, well, whereabouts in Moama do you live? And I'm just like, shit, this could be it for me. I'm like, spoiler alert, it's not, I'm here now. And like, I'm head to toe Lululemon kid. This guy's like head to toe truckie appearance. I'm like, this is two worlds like colliding. 10K out of Moama on a dirt road where I'm starting to worry about my life. And then I said, I live near the petrol station. And there's 3 petrol stations in Moama for people playing at home, so I didn't really want to give away my exact address. And then he still wasn't satisfied with it, and he's still trying to have this conversation. And it's at that stage where I'm like, I can't run off because you're in a truck. So I said, all right, see you later. And he looked at me and he's like, is that it? And then drove off very slowly, weirdly. And I'm like, please do not put your brake lights on and come back and get me. Very odd experience. And I then thought, shit, at least that's going to make a good story at the podcast this Sunday afternoon. 16K on Thursday, I listened to the Road to Gold Coast. And that was, it was good to listen to a podcast series where someone didn't get injured in the build-up. So I was kind of confident that they were all going to race, which they did this weekend. So that will be out during the week. Friday, did a Gold Coast run. Didn't see Brad Croker on this one because he went south instead of north. I also did 10 by 30 second surges in there just as strides. Saturday we were running from here at the QT, 20 minutes. Jess got us a bit lost. She stuck to the roads, not the beach path at one stage there, Moose, which you would have been stoked about. And then 30K with Croaks. I actually thought this was harder than it was going to be. Maybe I'm not as fit as I thought I was. But it was just good having Croaks out there doing his thing. He was the leader. I was just doing whatever he was next to it. My heart rate data, I think I averaged like 166 beats per minute. So I was probably...
161.
Yeah, but you're older. You can't get as high. It was a fun experience. I wouldn't say it was race effort, but it wasn't pleasant. Let's go for a tempo stroll through. The most common, how many times did people yell, yeah, the girls? That's probably been on trend for 2 years, but I only know it now.
You wanted more cheering for you?
No, I didn't want them cheering
this
for us.
This is the lead women's pack.
I reckon I heard that 200 times. So maybe just a variety of like different female specific calls next year. But anyway, it was good vibes. I ran 133K for the week. That's my weekly recap. I'll see you in 2 weeks at Bandura Moose. We'll go head to head.
Yeah, what are you, top 5?
Not top 5. I think I need 9 infusion. Today didn't feel that good.
Oh, please.
We'll see.
That is that's always the compliment.
When Chicago prep start?
Well, I didn't even know how many weeks Chicago was until you started talking about how many weeks Melbourne was.
So it's 14 today.
Yeah, okay. No, not this soon. We'll see what happens. Well, we've got to respect that and recover from that one. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to introduce our next guest. It's going to be the first guest of the show. She's the Commonwealth Games gold medalist. She's prepping for her 3rd Olympics. She ran a PB and come 2nd at the Gold Coast Half Marathon yesterday. Lululemon's biggest running ambassador, Jess Stenson. Welcome to the Inside Running Podcast. Thanks for being here, Jess. You've had a big couple of, not so much just 24 hours, but a big month in your world.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. It's exciting to be here. Last time I was pregnant with Ellie, and this year she's here with me. I actually worked out yesterday before the race. My last race in Australia was the 10K here a year earlier.
That's all right. You and Eloise Wellings, I reckon, jogged along, was it?
Oh, no, that was
it
when
year
I was
before?
pregnant with Billy and she was pregnant with Sunny. Last year
right.
it was just sort of on my own with Ellie, yeah.
Yeah. Must be stoked with how things went yesterday. You're also about to fly out to Europe tonight as well for your altitude training camp.
We are, yes. I was happy with the result yesterday. Knowing that it was a strong field, I decided to go in it and just race rather than look at my watch. So I actually never looked at the splits. The first half, it was a bit tricky to work out the effort because there was obviously a bit of a tailwind early on and then a headwind later on, but there was Sarah and Leanne, and we were ticking along, and I felt strong. I wasn't sure how it would feel because I've got heavy legs at the moment from the marathon training, and it was at about 12K once we turned around into the headwind. At that point, Leanne and I just said, look, let's try and fight this wind together. So we were taking in turns of leading and eventually got up to a pack, and Leanne sort of headed off with the pack, and I just hung in there on my own, and it got pretty tough towards the end, but I was really happy that I came away with a PB from it.
Jess, when you race after a selection, is there that added pressure of almost trying to justify the selection? Because we know all the drama that's gone on, and there'll be a lot of eyes on you and other girls as to how they perform. Even before the Olympics, there'll be some people that will try to throw stones at your performances. So did you feel that you need to put something big on the board?
I guess no external pressure would be as high as the internal pressure. Like I really want it. To me, the half marathon distance is just one I don't feel like I've mastered. So I felt probably more pressure because when I did this event 2 years earlier, it was a really tough experience. I had a lot of breathing difficulties and sort of went into survival mode to get to the finish line. So I think it was really good for me to practice that pre-race routine and to probably just step out of it and think, what do I want from this? Why do I run? It helps me to develop strategies to deal with pressure, because going into an Olympic race, there will be pressure. And so I got to practice everything, handling, those thoughts of what's happening on the outside. And to me, I find I can just bring it back to, like, why am I doing this? What am I trying to get out of it? And am able to sort of block that out. And it was nice to get through yesterday feeling like I achieved that.
Are you happy with the prep, how it's been going so far, and what are your plans between now and Paris?
So the prep so far, because the Paris course it's an interesting elevation profile actually. It follows the river, it's quite flat at 15 Ks. You start to go up a long steady hill, flattens out for a little bit, then you get a really sharp hill. You come gradually down another sharp hill, and then you belt down that entire hill for a couple of kilometres. So to prepare for that, I think altitude training is really important. I find that helps my ability to run hills. So we're off to St. Moritz. The heat component, it could be between 25, maybe up to 30 degrees at the hottest point of the day when we're running. And so I've been doing some heat and humidity chamber sessions, some sauna sessions, because I did run in the Birmingham Games a couple of years ago, which was, it actually, the elevation is going to be higher in Paris than it was in the Commonwealth Games, and it's also distributed differently. It's all in the middle of the course rather than the final few Ks, but I am utilising the information I gained from my prep for the Com Games to prepare for this one. And so far, it's going well. I've just got to keep strong and healthy and get to that start line and execute my plan.
Sorry, Brady, just follow up on that with the Paris course. Like most people, when they're preparing for a marathon, often you have one of those tough variables. So either you're training for a hilly marathon or you're training for a hot marathon. And so combining those two together, are you finding it difficult? Like, I'd imagine it'd be quite easy to overcook it, trying to train for heat, trying to train for hills, and so how are you balancing it to not overdo either?
Yeah, we put a plan in place. So my coach, Adam, and the exercise physiologist and my sports dietitian that tried to factor in the demands of parenthood, like having a baby and some of the feeding demands on my body as well, the heat, the hills, and trying to put together a plan that will not overcook anything, because there are high energy demands in all of those aspects, and I'm really happy with the plan, but I'm constantly checking feedback from, Garmin, Oura Ring data, communicating with Adam, and I feel like my husband Dylan's really good as well. He can tell when I'm on the brink of doing too much, and he's always the first one to pull me back and say, I think it's probably a good day to cross-train, and just having that reinforcement as well. I think I've really learnt to just, if I'm questioning whether I should be doing that second run for the day, it's probably enough to just say don't do it. So it's about listening to my body, which I think this will be my 17th marathon, so I have had a lot of experience now to draw upon for that.
Jess, have you got goals for Paris, like 22nd at Rio, 38th at London, third time around? Like, is there a position that you kind of got in the back of your head? I know you might give me the answer, like it's all about the process, and where the process gets me, that's kind of the outcome. But and I know Adam's very meticulous in his planning, and he, like, a lot of credit for him with the course study, I think, at Birmingham. Like, he'll know this course back to front, and the weather and all the nerdy stuff behind the scenes must give you a lot of confidence to finish as high as possible at Paris.
Yeah, I think at this stage in my life, it's just like make the most of every opportunity, have a crack. I went into the London Olympics, it was my second marathon, and I was thinking learn as much as I could, soak up as much from the experience. I got to enjoy the opening ceremony. The village was overwhelming, and I was just all eyes. Rio 4 years later, I had a bone stress injury in my second metatarsal, which made preparation really difficult. It was a lot of Alta G sessions, even leading right up to the race. So I went into that knowing that conquering the distance itself was going to be a big challenge. And then this time around, I think the course and conditions present a really exciting opportunity for the Australian runners, because tactics will come into play, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to really work with the other Aussie girls, Sinead and Jen, to just put ourselves up there and go for the top 10. I think if we can work together as a team on this course, it's going to get the best out of us all, and so that's what I'm dreaming about. Obviously, I've got to get to the start line fit, strong and healthy, but I want to get out there and have a real crack.
I'm not sure how much time we have left, Brady, but I was going to ask about how you work as a team when you beating those girls, although you all run for Australia. It's so much more beneficial for you to be the highest placed Australian, I think. At what point does the team element end?
Yeah, I mean, if I think to, say, New York or Birmingham, both of those marathons, so in New York, Elsie and I were sort of out there chatting away when the pace got a bit hot. We were like, no, we're going to pull back here. It's a really hot day. And then there was a hill that we both hit, and at that point we separated, and it was just like we never saw each other again. So that got us to 15 Ks working together. The Birmingham Games, I think it was about 30 Ks we separated, but just having each other's presence. And there were points in Birmingham where suddenly the pace just stalled, and we were like, are we going to go? And like, yep, keep pushing the pace, and we just would rotate to block the wind. And obviously if some drama happens with nutrition, you're all around to help each other. So I think similarly in Paris, I'd imagine that team cohesion begins, now, and then we get into Montpellier together in southern France, and we'll be running together. We'll start talking about the race, and then in the village when you're doing your bottles and getting ready, just that sense that we're in this together. It's about getting to the start line feeling united, and there's a real powerful effect in that alone. And then once the gun fires, I think if you can have those little conversations, it's really calming in the marathon. Just having allies around you. I think the race will be on when we do just naturally start to separate. But if we can stick together for as long as we're all feeling good together, that'll be beneficial.
Have you spoken to the other girls? Like, given there was some controversy with the selection, I feel like there's more eyes on you and the other girls, maybe this Olympic marathon compared to others in terms of like performing, and there's people in different camps. Do you feel more pressure this Olympics compared to the other two, given?
Look, it was a really tough time the last couple of months, and sport teaches resilience, and certainly that experience taught resilience, and it really makes you reflect on your own values and why you're in this in the first place. And if I was going to make this Olympic team, my goal was always going to be to just see what's possible and dream big. So as I said, the most pressure will come from myself, and at the end of the day, the person influenced by your result the most impacted is yourself. So you just have to keep remembering, like, there are people who have been a part of the process with you, and I'm wanting to do it for them. And the extra noise, you really do just have to try and let it just slide by, and the last few months have taught me that, and you just keep on bringing it back to why you do this, who matters most, what your priorities are. So as tough as the experience was, I think it just brought me back to why I run, and it's almost potentially taught me some resilience that will help me going forward in races.
Jess, in 4 years' time, what would you like to see change with the whole, potential process to avoid, these are my words, a shit show that it has been over the last month, and like maybe make it more transparent, or have a trial, or are you like, hey, it's all like, it's worked well in your favour in this situation? Are you all for the same process to continue? Or if you could offer suggestions for how we pick where are we going next? LA marathon team. What do you reckon?
Yeah, it's really hard. I mean, trial seems like a logical option, but then you see what's happened with the American trials, and some brilliant athletes have missed out as a result. So every process has its downfalls. I think certainly the selection criteria, I think, does need to be tight to an extent, so that people know what they need to do to put themselves in the best position for selection. And then on the other side of the selection, it would be good if some clear reasons could just be put out in the public, which in this case it wasn't. Reasons were provided to the athletes, but they weren't made public. And I don't know the reason for that, whether it is because obviously the rest of the team's about to be announced, and maybe different events are treated a bit differently, and so it could be harmful to put out reasons and then have different reasons for another event. That's just speculation. I'm not sure, but I think to avoid what has happened, probably just putting out a few points publicly might have helped. Do you feel like it would have helped
Yeah. Have you commented at all about what the reasons you were given were? Can we ask you that question? This is where
I'm not sure if it's public now, but I understand it was a bit to do with major championship history. So looking at a lot of the girls have... So once you run the time, we were all under the impression that then discretion is applied for the team to be selected, and we had no idea how the discretion would be used. And we were told that championship history was a big part of it, so that being World Championships and Olympic history. Basically, the top point in the criteria is the athlete's ability to finish, they're wanting to pick a team where the athletes are likely to finish in the top 8 or on the podium. So looking at who's come closest to achieving that in the past, and then basically every athlete had run a PB, I think, in the last 12 months. So they're kind of assuming current form, and then saying, well, if you've placed 9th or 10th or whatever in the past, then we're hoping you'll be able to replicate that again in Paris. So when you ask about what your goals are, that's what we've got to shoot for, because that's what we were selected to do.
Just change track a little bit here. I've noticed a lot lately there's been a bit of a viral type quote or philosophy theory that is women are not small men. And I know you've done some coaching in the past and you're a physio, you run with other females. What do you think of that? Do you think females should be coached differently to men?
Yeah, and I think they are these days. Like, I think we're starting to see women improving dramatically. Obviously, the first time the marathon was in the Olympics for women was 1984, which is relatively more recent than the men have been running marathons. I think just we're seeing women learning how to train their bodies, and there are different approaches. Some coaches sort of really tune into the athletes' hormonal cycles and that sort of thing. We're seeing more and more women coming back from having babies, and we're still learning a lot in that space. But I think traditionally probably women were treated like small men, but I think more and more now we're starting to see training being a bit more individualised, and there are a lot of women's health specialists out there, just from strength and conditioning through to training approaches. And I think that's one of the reasons we're seeing dramatic improvements in times and performances, but also more women interested in the sport because they're learning how to train their bodies better.
Yeah, so like just as an example, do you know of any elite women who train their body using their cycle, like their hormonal cycle? If that's happening in Africa, where the best runners are coming from? Because that's probably my take, is that I don't think that happens at an elite level, but we're sort of making out.
Do you think people are getting, people are getting criticised as coaches for not doing that?
I think...
And that's where you're then seeing that trend on social media. It's like getting attacked.
Not so much attacked. I just feel like sometimes females are almost made to feel like a weaker athlete if, like, you can't handle that, or you need to train like this during this time because you're not in the right hormonal cycle to do your training or whatnot. I just don't know if that happens at an elite level.
Yeah.
Deep here, Moose.
I'm interested in an actual elite female's response to that who has coached before.
Yeah, I think it can, like when you look at, say, sauna training and preparing for heat, hormones can play a major role, and I think you can't apply the same heat training protocol to a female as you can a male. So people who are in touch with exercise physiologists will probably be able to learn what's appropriate for them. As an elite female, I have people around me who get really impacted by their hormonal cycle, and they do have to tweak their training on the day. Fortunately, I haven't noticed too many fluctuations in how I feel, so I don't personally manipulate my training accordingly. But if you're an athlete who feels really sluggish or crampy during that time, I think it's really important to respect that. And I know my coach does, and I just sort of assume other coaches out there would too, but I'm not actually sure. I think Adam is a coach who really does individualise our training programs, and it helps because he's out there with us on session day, and not everyone has that opportunity. For me as a coach, it was online, and so I'd have to trust that the athlete can make those calls some days.
Yeah.
Last one for me, Jess. Lululemon kit at the moment. What are you loving? What are you recommending?
Well, for travel and for just everyday activities, I love the soft stream pants and the Align. So these are the soft stream ribbed pants right now. The Nulu fabric is really soft in winter. The Align fabric, everyone, like buttery's kind of the word. It is the softest, dreamiest fabric you'll wear. For running, fast and free shorts and tights, they have the pockets. You can't feel them when you're running. They're not distracting at all. They're just supportive and feel great. So in the winter, I've been wearing the Swiftly Tech tops as well a lot, often with a jacket over top, the gloves, sometimes the arm warmers.
Yeah, have you been doing workouts in the long tights I saw your Instagram a couple of weeks ago, you did a big long run, and you do it in tights the whole way to try to generate the extra heat?
Yeah, I have. So for some previous championships, I have relied on that, just rugging up for runs. Yeah. But this time around, I've been trying to do that for some sessions, but also then jumping in the heat and humidity chamber and doing some sauna sessions as well.
Yeah. Any questions? Last one's Croaks from
Just
you?
last one. Given it's a tricky marathon course, it's very different to what we're used to seeing. How do you think the race will play out?
It's a really interesting one. We have the benefit of being able to watch the men run on Saturday, and we're on the Sunday, so it'll be really interesting to talk to them. And I think what the men do, the women could then respond to that and do something quite different the next day. There's every chance it could be raining as well and slippery. My thoughts are that the pace will be hot still early on because it's going to be flat and along the river, and those hills are going to sort some people out. But I really do think it's the downhill that's going to shock people, and then trying to run hard off that downhill. So you get to the bottom of the hill at around 35 Ks, which is about when the marathon starts. So I know Adam in my plan has been quite focused on, we've been doing this long steady uphill, long steady downhill, and he's started to get me to run at marathon pace down the hill and then continue off that, just to prepare my legs to be a bit beaten up, and then hitting marathon pace. Whether it works, we'll see on the day, but I think that downhill is going to be quite a challenge.
Have you done a bit in the gym around sort of quad strengthening, changing how you work out?
I'd like to have done more. I've been doing a lot of Pilates, and because it's been quite a time-intensive training block with just adding in the sauna sessions and the travel out to do the heat training sessions, I probably would like to have done a little bit more in the way of weighted squats and that sort of thing. I've still got 5 weeks until the race, and I'm planning over the next 2 weeks to get in the gym and just do a little bit more strength work. But I'm also going to be in the mountains doing more hilly running. So again, I just have to listen to my body. You don't want to go into a big St. Moritz hilly run with DOMs in the quads. And obviously I have to respect the race yesterday as well.
Hey Moose, this time last year Jess filled in for Croaks, and we discussed our bet that we had. You owe me a slab because I said Jess would make the Olympic team. Do you want to double or nothing? I'm giving you the opportunity here. Double or nothing. Jess is the highest Australian finisher at the Olympics. 66% chance, 33%
This could give me some extra motivational fuel out there.
She helped me in the last 12 months. Do you want to take it? She sounds
I'm
fit.
taking it.
You're taking it?
I'm taking. She's got the Australian record holder she got to beat.
I'm also going to say I ran past
Do you watch the
Moose
last 5K
today.
Com Games?
I ran past you this morning, and I thought no one could be more in the middle of the road than you were. Without your bib.
Without a bib.
There was no footpath.
I was
running
off
by
the course. I was off the course. Thanks for backing me up there. I found it pretty odd that you and Andy were out there giving like a lot of Jess and Andy time. Sunday morning they could have gone anywhere.
Andy
but
was getting a lot of shouts from people. Congratulations. He was a king this morning, so I don't blame him for wanting to.
Yeah, the guy next to me said, "Oh, how did Andy go yesterday?" I'm like, you know who was next to him?
Yeah. Jess, thanks for your time. Safe travels over to Europe tonight. All the best. I think 31 days maybe. Olympic marathon, somewhere like that?
Yeah,
maybe?
I'm not sure. I'm trying not to think too much about it. Just get through these next few weeks of training and, actually get through the travel. I'm pretty nervous about this flight with a 9-month-old and a 4-year-old.
You're in business?
No.
Oh, come on, Lululemon. Just grab the credit card and upgrade at the gate.
That'd be such a stitch up to my husband who'd be back with the 2 kids. No, thanks everyone for coming today and enjoy the rest of the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jess Stenson.
Yes. Yeah.
We've been talking about and wearing the new Lululemon Beyond Field running shoe this year. Lululemon's new running shoe puts cushioning at the forefront. Built so the runner experiences a softer heel-to-toe glide through Lululemon's exclusive supercritical midsole foam, ventilation and support in the mesh upper. It also features confident traction and flexion in the outsole that enables a more comfortable and cushioned run. Try it out for yourself in select stores and online at lululemon.com.au.
We are going to whip through this news, fellas, and then we've got our next guest all ready to go. I'm going to start with the Gold Coast. So the half marathon, the first result we saw on the Saturday morning. This was windier, I feel. I don't know. I wasn't out in course. I was watching it on the stream, but it looked rougher weather than what we experienced out there today, Croaks. Andy Buchanan got the win, 62.25. That was PB from him. Looked in trouble at 18K too. Found something in that last 3K to fight back and get the win. Isaac Hayne, probably run of the day, even though he didn't win, I'm calling it. Got in brackets here, the Smiling Assassin. He looked like he was having so much fun. First ever half marathon. Went to the front, maybe around 12, 13K, just put the foot down, broke a very big lead pack up. And yeah, he was very, very strong to finish second in 62.27.
State record too, I believe.
Yeah, okay. Yep, so that's pretty good, knocking that over in your debut. And Shanzuki Shikama was third, the Japanese runner, in 62.28. So Isaac just got him in a bit of a sprint finish there, but not enough of a sprint finish to be able to close down Andy. Leanne Pompiani, very impressive as well. Hasn't had a fantastic season to date in 2024. She was 69.20, which, what are we giving it? Like, has it got to be worth 30 seconds? Like, that's a sub-69 race on a good day.
I don't think she ran that much faster last year.
Well, she won it before, hasn't she?
Yeah, no, she won...
last year, was it? Or the year before?
Oh, I don't think she won.
No, Kyra D'Amato won last year, but she was maybe second.
Yeah, first Australian.
It's about 4 seconds off a PB or something like that.
Yeah, and that was her
Ali
PB
and
last
stuff,
year.
didn't she?
She did.
Yeah, some good people. Yeah. So 69.20 for her. Jess Stenson, obviously 70.08. The clock when she crossed the line did say 69 something, but I'm not sure what happened there. And Sarah Hall from America, 70.54. A long way to travel for Sarah to not be kind of in the race. Not sure what her fitness is like, but yeah, surely she'd be a bit disappointed with that one. Was going to come this afternoon as well, fellas, but she flew out this morning. Big prediction here, Isaac Hayne, when he goes to the marathon. Might still be 4 or 5 years away. Adam Diddick as coach. Good success as a coach of marathoners. I'll collect that receipt in about 5 years, I reckon.
And I'll go Leanne Pompiani. When she steps up to the marathon, she's going to run well.
What about Croaks yesterday? Moose tells me, he goes, oh yeah, I'm going to become her trainer partner. Hopefully she takes me on like training trips. I'll pace her during the races. He's got this contingency plan all worked out in his head.
Imagine how much he would cook her in a 1 week.
I would enjoy helping Leanne out in her marathon prep, given she's from Canberra.
Yeah, okay. Timothy Kattam got the move on. He got the win in 2:08.52 in the men's. This was a sprint finish as well. Tilahun was second in 2:08.58, and Koga he was from Japan, third place in 2:09.22. So the Gold Coast continues to deliver sub 2:10 marathoners. Our girl Croaks, Yuki Nakamura, she won in 2:24.22, which was a 21-second course record. I did watch the finish on the live stream. The boys on the live stream had a different clock. So they're like, she's missed the course record. Lindsay Flanagan can sleep well tonight. She gets to hold it for another year. And then they get into the straight and she's like, well under the course record. So I'm not sure how they stuffed that up. So huge run from her. Beat the two Kenyans there as well. Shilala, she was 2:25.25. And Jepkosho, who was the more aggressive of the two Kenyans when she wanted the 40K deal. She was third, the 2:21 marathoner in 2:26.17. Australian men, Liam Boudin on debut. We spoke about this last week, 2:13.56. Was pretty cooked the last 5 or 6K. Went out with the leaders, but he held on for a very impressive debut. Two very close men to the show. Tom DeCano was second in 2:14. Actually his second fastest marathon of his career. So, considering when you look at his Strava, he didn't do much in the last 6 or 7 weeks. And Reece Edwards, 2:15. He'll be recapping all of that on Road to Gold Coast this week. Give me some thoughts there, boys, about the Australian men before I move on to the 10K.
Impressive from Liam. Like, if you asked me yesterday who was going to be our top Aussie, I wouldn't have picked Liam. It would have been probably Tommy or Reece. So,
But Crogs, imagine how much he could have improved on that if he didn't go out at 2:6 pace. Like, he was in that front group at 8K, which means that he was going through in 2:6 pace, because I believe that's what it was paced at. So you just put him in the next group, have him run with Tommy or Reece, then I think he's going to come home a lot stronger, and I reckon you'd be closer towards the 2:10 mark there.
Okay, that's good for the future as well. 10K. Have to Strintos. He was on the show a few weeks ago saying how this would be his road running debut. He ran 28.53. Jack Bruce was second, 29.33. 40 seconds over 10K. That's a big win. Dale Carroll, 29.48. He runs for Collingwood down in Victoria. Caitlin Adams won. ASICS would be happy with that. ASICS event, 33.23. Amy Robertson second, 33.43. She was stoked with this. I saw her in the elite call room thing afterwards. She wasn't even meant to be in there. She wasn't an elite athlete, I don't think. And then she got the old lanyard that they give you at the finish line, and then she got let into the elite athlete. And she was stoked there was gluten-free banana bread in there. I'm like, mate, you're about to win prize money. Like, you'll get invited to these things in the future. So she was over the moon. And then Kate Spencer was third in 33.46. Moose, quick question for you. A lot of people ran Gold Coast today. A lot of people would have had good days. Some people would have had poor days. What's your advice to the people who had poor days today? What can they take out of it?
Well, without the bad days, you just don't appreciate the good days ever. If you were going to run well every single time you ran, it would be boring. It would be meaningless if you did have a really good day. So I think you've got to take that feeling that you had in that last sort of 10% of the race, 20% of the race, you know, the feels that you get. You go, why am I doing this? This is shit. I'm never going to come back unfit like this again, or I'm never going to make the same mistakes. That feeling, bottle it up, and that's what gets you out the door for the next 6 months, training for your next marathon. And that on the morning of the next marathon, you sort of open the bottle and go, all right, this is like we reset now, and it's time for a good day.
Next bit of news, boys. Aussie selection. Nothing from the authorities at Athletics Victoria yet, but Zach Gates, he's come out. He's the Wide World of Sport journalist, and I like that we've got a mainstream journalist now giving, although he's leaking a lot of this stuff before it comes from Athletics Australia. We'll talk about that in a second as well.
He's not leaking it. He's reporting it. Journalists don't leak stuff.
No, but
stuff gets leaked to him.
Yeah.
He's not in a position where he can leak stuff because he's not sitting there in a room.
Sorry, you knew what I meant.
No, I think it's an important difference.
Yeah.
Because some people might think that leaking things
he publishes details that get leaked to him. Yep. So the news here was that the men's 1500 metre team will be Adam Spencer, Ollie Hoare and Stewie McSwain, which leaves off the young prodigy Cam Myers. Crowd's not happy.
Okay, so what you've got a selection panel here that's basically been put in front of them. The old bull or the young...
And Stewie. You think it's only out of... Those two are the only two for that third spot, you think?
I think so. After Spencer won that national title, I know it wasn't a lock, but I think he kind of earned the spot coming back and
I agree.
And winning that race.
He's also correct.
Yeah, I think if you win it's not a trial, but if you win nationals and you've got the time, like I would have been happy for him to have been selected after nationals.
And beats them all on a head-to-head basis,
Ollie Hoare's obviously been showing a probably greater form than Stewie as well.
Com Games champ.
Yeah. So then you have Stewie, who is the last 6 years, he's been our best male distance runner. He still competes in nearly every Diamond League out there. He's probably, we used to probably call it that he was compete for a podium at most of those Diamond Leagues, whereas now we're not quite calling it like that.
Finalist at Tokyo. Was he 8th across the,
and was
talking
a chance.
Maybe he could snag
was a medal
medal
chance at Tokyo.
You could have got both of them there though. Like Stewie just focuses on the 5K because it's very hard to double up at an Olympics unless you are at the top echelon. We're talking world record holders.
So we don't know that Stewie's not.
Well, yeah.
He'd maybe said, hey, I just want to do the 1500.
Yeah, but he could do the 5. And I feel like as Stewie gets older, he's going to get better at the 5. And then you can blood Cam Myers. Because you look at, he's on the same trajectory as Ingebrigtsen. And he was running at these major championships from the age of 17. And it only took him 1 or 2 years of major championships to then be winning gold at the Olympics. So he sort of needs that exposure. But I can also see why the selectors chose Stewie over Cam, because Cam, I don't think, has ever beaten Stewie. He's run faster, so how can you pick Cam over Stewie? So I see it. I see why they've gone that way, but it'd be nice to maybe Stewie just say, I'll just run the 5 and let Cam have a run.
It's also not Stewie's responsibility, though, to be blooding the future of Australian distance runners.
No, it's not.
I'm with you, though. I'm keep everyone happy boat. Let's give Stewie the 5. Let's give Cam the 15. What a valuable experience it would have been, and then he medals.
In terms of this news being broken by the journalists as opposed to the National Federation, I do not like that. I know that Athletics Australia, they can't just name their Olympic team. They have to send it through to the AOC to be ticked off, and that takes time. But I feel like it would be better for the for AA to contact the IOC saying this is who we want to select, IOC say, yep, we'll sign off on that. They then contact the athletes and it gets announced right then. I know that they have appeals, but all of the appeals come out in the media anyway. So it's like, this is the team, and then if an appeal comes, then the media can then comment on, yep, this is the team, but there's been an appeal by this person, and we'll just wait and see what happens.
Yeah.
I don't know, this news should come from the governing body, I feel, not the newspapers.
Yeah, however, I don't blame the newspaper for reporting on it.
It's his job.
Yeah, that's exactly his job, and it does create good exposure for the sport. We get to learn about it as athletics fans. We get to see this in the media. We're seeing it in the major newspapers. A major sports journalist now is focusing on it in his reporting, and that's only good for the sport. And I did see a comment out there by one of the coaches of a lot
Justin
of our good
Rinaldi,
runners.
Pete Bowles' coach.
Yeah, he tweeted saying you should consider the athlete's feelings before you do a report on this, and I disagree with that. I think that it's not up to the journalist to consider someone's feelings when they're reporting actual news on the sport, which is what he had at the time.
Yeah, and we can't whinge that athletics doesn't get mainstream media, and then the minute that we get mainstream media, just be like, oh no, let's think about people's feelings and stuff. Every other sport. Like, look at my boy, Harley Reid, not Chuka, 10 minutes out of a Chuka guy.
Yeah.
He's on the back page of the Western Australian paper every week, and he's 19.
It's exactly what I was
18.
talking about it when mentioning that athletes need to be thicker skinned. We need to deal with that sort of some occasionally negative press. We need to reporting on criticisms on our performances, and by not reporting because it might upset somebody it's not what our sport needs.
Last minute news, Croaks. UK selection drama as well.
Yeah, so we spoke about the UK trials last week, and so Jake Whiteman had a sore calf, so he didn't compete at the trials, but he has run the standard in the 800. UK decided to select Jake in the 800, despite not running the trials, and so that means Elliot Giles, who also has the time, and he did run the trials but fell, he won't be running at the Olympics. Eilish McColgan, she's been added in the 10,000 metres despite only recently coming back from a long injury layoff. Now, where the controversy comes is, and this is very much what AA used to do, so Athletics Australia now, basically anybody that qualifies for the Olympics, either through the time or is in a quota spot, they will pretty much send. What the UK have done is, if you make the World Athletics Standards, you're on the team, but being in the quota is not enough by itself. They've got a second standard. So, for example, in the men's steeple, the World Athletics Standard's 8:15. UK have brought in an 8:18.5, and an athlete, Phil Norman, missed that standard by 0.015. So around 8:18.65, which is faster than what Clarkey and Bucks have both run, but he'll be left home, even though he's inside the quota. So that's the controversy around the UK selection policy at the moment. And AA was a bit like that back in the day, not sending full teams.
So it used to be like medal potential, wasn't it? Like, yeah, you've hit the qualifier, but if we don't think you can win a medal, you're not going. New Zealand were pretty hard too, weren't they?
No, the actual, I think it's the UK head of athletics, or I forget his title, but he actually had some really, I thought, pretty nasty quotes about it. Nasty is probably not the right word, but he basically said, someone who's showing up and not getting through a heat at the Olympics does not inspire the next generation of runner. And so we should be dedicating their resources, the money, the facility and the focus onto the athletes, our high-class athletes who will make finals and compete for medals. The also-rans, those that might make up the rest of the field, that we don't want them to be UK runners because they're going to take away the focus from those high-achieving athletes. And look, that is one of the most crazy philosophies that I've ever heard in sport. It just stops anyone who might not think that they'll make the very top level from pursuing that sport. You're gonna have athletes, let's say Andy Buchanan, right, in this position. He's a 210 guy. He
208 guy.
Oh, 208 guy now, actually.
Yeah.
So, bad example, Andy Buchanan. Let's say Liam Boudin. 213 guy now. He goes, oh, well, maybe I could just make, if there are selections, let's say it's 210, I could probably keep going for that. I can dedicate another few years. I can change a few things, and it'll be all worthwhile if I get a chance to make the team. But if it's AA go, no, you're only making the team if the actual qualifying time's 2:06, and you're going to be in the top 10 is the only way. He won't want to continue with that. He might go to triathlon. He'll just give up, but go chase a career somewhere else. It's really, it's kind of deflating. I think there'd be a lot of UK athletes really deflated and left wondering, what's the point?
Other countries are doing it though. I saw on Twitter or X or whatever it is, a girl in Sweden qualified for the last Olympics, didn't get selected, is I think ranked like 35th in the quota in the women's 1500, and they're not selecting her this Olympics either.
Insane.
So as much as we sometimes give AA a hard time, this is one thing that they have improved on. They are sending full teams where they can.
I think it's going to potentially that will benefit Jack Rayner as well. I think he may roll into that.
Yeah, because countries aren't accepting their positions.
Yeah. So I'm not sure how much running.
For which event? The 10K?
For the 10K, yeah.
Wow.
Potentially the 5K too. That's what my Norwegian mate, he is close to the ground over there. That's what he's telling me. Ladies and gentlemen, our next guest needs not much of an introduction because I'm calling her the greatest female distance runner that Australia has ever produced, the world cross-country champion. Please make some noise for Benita Willis. Hey Benita, thanks for being here. Welcome to the Inside Run podcast. Look good in your Lululemon get-up, and I reckon you've had a busy day, but yeah, thanks for coming along.
Yeah, look, thanks for having me, and I love what you guys do, and just promoting the sport's fantastic. So yeah, I know when I was running there wasn't anything like this, so yeah, I love hearing you chat about drama and all sorts of things, and look, it adds to it for sure.
Yeah. What has your day and weekend looked like? Like you're an ambassador, were you doing some stuff with the live stream and a coach now as well? So yeah, maybe just give us a bit of a rundown about what the last 48 hours look like for you.
Yeah, look, it's a really busy weekend because I feel like, when you're doing a bit of live stream, you sort of got to focus on who's in the field and who's coming and the head-to-heads. But then in my mind, I've got so many people running that I'm always thinking, what's this person going to do? What pace is this on for? I've got people coming up to me in our tent, our lace-up running tent. And it's one of those things that, yeah, and then I'm also an ambassador for Gold Coast Marathon. I'm on the board of Events Management Queensland, so we sort of run this event as well. So I've got a lot of different hats, and I've got a 1-year-old running around as well, so she's hectic.
Which is probably the hardest bit of the weekend, yeah.
I think the 1-year-old's the hardest.
How do you manage all that stuff though? So like you got an athlete sending you a message and you're trying to like jump between head spaces. Are you good at that, like over a short period of time?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, look, I'm not running. I don't probably run more than 40 Ks a week, so nothing like even what you guys are talking about. So I think I've got a lot of energy to dedicate to that, and I always think the more people you coach, it's that emotional energy as well.
Yeah.
And I know when I was competing, I was started doing a little bit of coaching, and I just didn't have as much emotional energy to put towards that. But now, look, these weekends are really tiring for sure, and you're always thinking, I've got to do all these things, and am I doing everything right? And look, and I coach elites like I coach the former. Like, I was hoping you guys stuffed them up more today because Lindsay Flanagan's my athlete.
I told you, Brady, but Benita would not be happy with us.
Straight away, he's like, Benita won't be happy with us. I'm like, why? What have we done? And he's like, her athlete now lost. And I'm like, no one should. Do you care about that stuff?
Look, yeah, I mean, no, we don't care too much.
Yeah.
But, that was probably one of the highlights of Lindsay's career when she came, And so I was hoping that they didn't break the record today. But
she'll have to come back next year.
Yeah, she'll have to come back. But, it's sort of like from the elites all the way through to the rec runners. And I place as much importance on, I had a girl break 1 hour 50 yesterday in the half for the first time. It was a PB from 10 years ago. She's, from down south, in her 50s. I place as much importance on someone like that. And I had a lady today breaking 4 hours for the first time. She's turning 60 soon. So it's one of those things that it's just as important to me for those people as the people I've got running up the front as well. So it's just thinking, and pacing wise, I coach quite a few Americans. So I'm always thinking like miles, and then I'm going back to Ks. And when I was running, I didn't even wear a watch. So, when I ran my marathon PB, I didn't wear a watch. I couldn't even, people have told me what pace it was, but in the race, I didn't even know. So it's very different to when I was an athlete too.
Benita, a lot of our current crop of top female distance runners have always said, like, who did you look up to? And they mention you. Do you play much of a mentoring role with our current crop? Are you in touch with them regularly?
Yeah, like even Jess, yeah, for sure. And I get in touch with a lot of them because, like, I know how hard the sport is. And, with this drama that's gone on with the selections and things like that, like, all you can do is your best, and you're always copying criticism from everywhere. And I know when I was an athlete, I didn't handle that very well, and I didn't really have anyone to talk to that, wasn't a coach or someone like that. So I always think it's really important that people feel like they can approach you as well. And it's not about, am I coaching them? I'm not coaching them, but it's about, someone that understands the sport that can help. And yeah, a number of our top athletes, message me on Instagram or text me or call me, and even share news that's personal. And I think that's a really cool part, part of our lives as well. That's not just all running.
Do you ever send a message back just being like, can you slow down and stop taking my records? Like they're slowly been disappearing over the last couple of years. And look, I saw there was a 2K at Monaco Diamond League, and I've still got that record, but that's definitely going to go. I think it's in about a week. Look, it's it's a 5K on the road still, or 20K on the road?
Yeah, I've got 5K on the road, 10K on the road as well, and they were pre-super shoes, so
so you probably still got them, really.
Well, but when you're talking about, so I live on the Gold Coast, right, and everyone does wear super shoes here, just going for jogs, and I feel like I've never been fit enough since my career stopped to wear super shoes, so I've never tried them because I feel like I've never been in good enough shape to wear them.
Oh, that's a real shame. You'll have to get out and get some. Actually, I've got a website for you. Benita, why is it taking so long for these girls to catch you?
I don't know. Hey, I think cross country was my best thing, right? And marathons, I was very inconsistent. I've done a 2:22, then my next best was 2:26. Even 10K on the track. I was the first person to break 31 minutes. And it was one of those things that, I feel like they've all come through quite quickly, but now we've just got such good depth. And I feel like the more competition and the more people that are vying for spots on the Olympic team and breaking the records. Once Jess Hull broke that 5K record, that was a few years ago now, they've all been toppling down. And I just feel like they're competing against each other as well, and not only to break the records, but to be in the team. So I always think when records get broken, it's a sign of depth in the sport and that our sport's moving in the right direction. So I'm happy to see them broken. It's one of those things that, look, I loved having a lot of records, but to me, my running was all about the results and the placings, and I think that's why cross country was huge to me. And even the weekend's races, I love seeing racing. But when you see records getting broken, it's a fantastic thing. And to see both those marathon ones get broken a couple of years ago, that's huge. And I think the marathons are going to keep going down as well.
Benita, I've got a question about a bit nerdy in terms of now that you're a coach and just things that you would have changed as an athlete. So do you ever look back at old training diaries and sort of, now that you're coaching, analyse your own training? And if you could go back, what are some of the things that you would change in training, whether it be mileage, the types of sessions you're doing, or intensity?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I feel like with people I coach now, I do use the mistakes I made as an athlete and use that for people that I coach. So I think one thing was that I always did 3 sessions a week, and I think that's too much intensity. And people that I coach now usually train Tuesday, Friday. I think I used to probably run too many Ks sometimes. I didn't do any cross training. When I got injured, I was out for ages, and I never listened to my body. And we always encourage people to listen to their body, but I feel like my coach set the training, and I would meet these running groups all the time and just do the training. And I would always run with guys on easy days, and I think that's a big mistake because I used to train a lot with a guy that could break 13 minutes for 5K, and my PB for 5K was 14:47. So he's always going probably way easier than me, but that's just how we train. So some days I might be doing a tempo on an easy day because I'm running with the guys that I train with, and then I've got to show up for a session the next day. So that was training too hard all the time. And so my emphasis now as a coach is on recovery, and with what Jess was saying as well, listening to your body. It's fantastic that she talks about that because I think that's a huge way to improve and I had a really long career. I went to 4 Olympics and I was going for a long time, but I feel like if I had have listened to my body, maybe I might have ran more into my 40s. Like I retired when I was 32, and that's quite young for a marathon runner as well. So, and when I retired too, I was sick of it, and I just wanted to do something else and get on with a career. And I think maybe when you have too much intensity, you lose that love for it as well. So I think that's huge, the love and the passion for the sport as well.
Benita, the big Mizuno documentary, like there was footage of you jogging with Craig a lot. Like, so that's the example you kind of say, he's a 12:55 guy, and yeah, you'd do all your easy jogging with Craig when you'd be away on camps and stuff?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Like I didn't do much running by myself. Always train with groups, yeah, for the sessions, and then jogging, yeah, with guys in training as well. So, but I mean, he used to run really easy. So I used to think his pace was slow, but you always think, they're 2 minutes faster than you at 5K, so you're probably always going a little bit fast, yeah. But, I mean, it was fun, and we used to trash talk all the time, and, we never talked about running, and I think when you're running with people, it's really fun when you're just doing, easy miles and with people as well. So I never thought about it at the time, but, Lindsay Flanagan, who I coach in the US, and she was 9th at World Champs last year in the marathon, she does a lot of her training by herself, and there's no problem with that too. But in my day, a lot of people wouldn't have done that. Yeah.
Lindsay come out to Australia as well, was based in Adelaide before the US trials and stuff, and she was just murdering training, wasn't she? Like just solo?
Yeah, yep. She had an amazing block of training, yeah. So she went into that Olympic marathon trial. And with what Jess was talking about as well, it's just that American system, like it's so cutthroat. Like they don't have the controversy as we have here, but I don't know if all their best people make the team. And unfortunately, she had a few stomach issues and didn't run as well as her training was predicted to be. So, yeah, but she was having a fantastic block in Adelaide. She trained a lot with Tara Palm, who ran... she DNF'd today, actually. But, yeah, she had a really good block, and she'll be back out to Australia.
Yeah, because if in the Australian model, she's come top 10 world champs at a hot marathon, which would be a perfect, person to pick for a Paris marathon. So, yeah.
Well, I think in the Aussie criteria, if you finish top 10, you're automatic for the Olympics.
So she would have been on the team. Yeah.
Benita,
that would have made our selection tough.
You sound like you love the coaching. I reckon what would fit perfect is an elite marathon group in Australia, with it focused on the marathon, and it actually has a coach like yourself who's probably a little bit more innovative or caring. What are your thoughts on that? What do you reckon you could get that up and about?
Yeah, look, I think that would be fantastic. And look, I think there's too few female coaches, not only here in Australia, but across the world. And it's not that females are better or anything. It's more just that I feel like I've got a bit of a different approach, and I'm not a dictator and sort of, checking Strava to see if someone's done their run or anything like that. Like I'm very laid back, but it's about, listening to your body and that really good communication. And obviously I know all the sessions to set. I don't think that's... Yeah, I think that's sort of... Every good coach knows what sessions to set, but I think it's like the puzzle of putting it together but knowing each person individually as an athlete. But I think they'd feed off each other. Like with what Jess was talking about, Jess, Sinead, and Jess,
Jen.
Sinead and...
Jen.
And, Jen, they would train well together. And they obviously all live in different places, but if we had a group together, I think it would work really well. And look, it works well in America. There's a lot of American, Hanson's do a pretty good job. There's a lot of, but again, we haven't got too many female coaches, so it's a bit unknown, but it'd be awesome. Although I think, I don't know if Gold Coast, it's a bit hot here in summer.
No, you'll have to move for sure. You'll be down in Melbourne, no doubt.
Yeah, I never trained here when I was an athlete, so I'm a bit of a sook for heat and humidity.
Well, that reminds me, Moose, remember a few years back you wanted to start up this elite group in Ballarat. When you were living in Ballarat, you spoke about the same sort of thing, like starting up a...
Ballarat could work.
More elite
Did
groups.
you spend time in Ballarat? I know your husband's from Ballarat, isn't he?
Yeah, he's from Ballarat, and I came to Ballarat Marathon. And
but
we loved
on the
it.
course. That's right. Yeah.
They thought I was an ambassador, but I was just there to hang out.
Benita, I was doing some research during the week, and your consistency at World Cross was incredible. I believe that you raced 9 times, 4 times over short course, which for those that aren't aware, there used to be 2 races at World Cross. There was a short course, which was 4K, and long course for women was 8K. So you did 4 short course races and 5 long course races, and these were your finishes. 1st, 3/4, a 5th, a 6th, a 7th, 11th, and a 17th. like incredible. Like that almost deserves a round of applause, I reckon, for that. Like, because like we were at Bathurst and we get really excited when like one of our girls now finishes in the top 20, and like your 17th was your worst. The question is, World Cross is known as the toughest race to win because countries can send 6, whereas Olympics and World Champs, they're only allowed to send 3. What made you so good at cross country, and was there anything in particular in training that you did to be so good at it?
Yeah, look, I think my biggest thing about racing is just I hate watching paces. I hate lap splits in track races. I think with cross country, I love that the courses are all different, but I'm just so competitive. Like even when I was a kid, I was a hockey player, but the games would finish when it was too dark to see the ball anymore when we were outside, or like I'd get sent off a bit because I'm really trying to win and getting so fired up at people on the team. So I think it's just that competitive nature, and I love cross country because it's just about racing people on the day. Like I'd go into these races, and some of these Africans, like my 5K PB is 14:47. Some of them had run 14:20, but I can beat them at cross country. And I just think it's running to the conditions as well. So it's one of those things that training-wise, I used to do a lot of sessions on grass, and even like K reps, I do them on these grass fields in Canberra, and I'd go over little hills. Like, so a lot of people would hate that because it would stuff up your splits, but like I didn't care. I wasn't even looking at splits. I was just I had these courses that I used to do, and it was all about sort of just making sure it was choppy and not sort of smooth bike path or track running. So I used to do a lot of that sort of training, and and sometimes I'd wear spikes on grass, but heaps of grass training and heaps of training on uneven surfaces. But look, yeah, I love courses that had mud, that when it was raining, when it was windy, probably the worst conditions, I loved it. And I remember the Africans, like when I won in Brussels, we showed up in our bus, and it was raining and it was windy and it was so cold, and like there was mud up to your knees, or probably halfway up your knees in some sections, and I was loving it. But the Africans, I was watching them, and they all had their heads down, and even when we went to the core room getting ready to race, they still had their tracksuits on going out to the start line, and like they're doing everything last minute, whereas like we're pumped. We've got like strapping tape over the middle of our spikes, got like 15 mil spikes, and I feel like when you're pumped to run in those sort of conditions, I think that brings out the best in you. And I always get out quick. Like I don't reckon my reaction time's very good, like for track races and road races, but in cross country, I'm always out. Like I got rope burn from the starting rope one year because I was standing on it when they ripped it across. So in cross country, they have the starter way. There's hundreds of people in the race. So they have, the starter way up on a big pedestal, and they have the rope about sort of thigh height. And one year, I was standing on it, and I got rope burn because I was just ready to go. I wasn't even watching where the rope was. So it's one of those things, I think you're in the zone. And one of the girls on our Australian team once said to me, like, how do you get out so fast? Because you've really got to go fast. And I don't know how I did it, but I think I just loved it so much that, it was one of those things that I always ran well. Yeah.
Your hockey speed.
Can you teach that to people though, or you reckon you're born with it? Like people you coach, like you sound like you just got this white line fever. And I think actually Jess has it too. Like she's so nice, but she's she's saying she wants to run as a team and stuff. But when she clicks into like beast mode, she just destroys people. But like, do you try to like get that to people you coach and like give them tips or talk about that kind of mongrel grit, white line fever? Like, yeah, the rope burn's pretty cool. Like, it's a good story.
Yeah. I think it's hard to coach. I think I look at people that I coach, and some people haven't done enough racing over like shorter distances or cross country or your races where you get knocked around a bit. Like there's lots of road runners where all they've done is sort of running on the road and on the track where no one touches you and you're sort of in your own element. And I think, getting people to race more is a way of helping, but it is very hard to train, I think. So it's one of those things that you can give them little tips, but I always like little phrases to think about. I think like analogies rather than sort of times and stuff like that. So I like to give people analogies of stuff. But I think it's hard to train. Yeah.
I'm picturing you in a training group right now, and wondering how many aspiring upcoming females tried to join you and got killed. Considering how competitive you are, I'm not sure you would have allowed them to keep up with you for too many reps.
Yeah, I mainly train with guys, so yeah.
Benita, massive running boom at the moment. And our job at this show is sometimes, or a lot of the time, trying to make the connection between people that love to run and might not know a lot about running to know people's stories like yourself who have done amazing stuff in the past, and your resume is completely unbelievable. But what do you think at the moment, like, do you have to do things, social media is hard? Like, and it's very competitive in the running space as well, and some of the people might not know or have done really good things in the running space. Like, do you see it as you've kind of still got to try and be relevant or, like, prove yourself at times? Like, do you find having conversations with people at times and you have to tell them, like, I actually won a world championship at this sport? Like, is it weird sometimes?
Yeah, for sure. And look, there's a massive running boom. And look, I absolutely love it, but I'm hopeless on social media. Like, I don't post much. I'm really bad at talking about myself. So, so I really rely on people to know my story and know what I do through people I already coach, like word of mouth and things like that. But it's one of those things, like even coming on the show and having a chat to you guys, it's sort of, you're getting the word out a bit more. But I'm a really bad self-promoter. So a lot of people would be like, who the hell's she? So.
You said you're involved ambassador for the race and on the board of events, was it? What are we doing with Gold Coast? How's it going to get bigger and better? And it's selling out. How do we get more people on the course? How do we make it faster too?
Yeah, look, that's a good question. And this year we sold out at 30,000. We've got 13,000 on the wait list. So potentially we could have had 43,000 people running across the weekend. Wow. It's just absolutely huge. But I feel like, so we've changed the course a bit in the marathon, as you know. I think we can probably get a few more people. Moving the days, so having the half on the Saturday, marathon on the Sunday, I think's helped. But I really think we need to start to fill up even the shorter races too. So those races that sell out are the marathon and the half marathon. And really that's what we focus on. But we want everything to sell out too. So, it's hard because I feel like the more people you have, like there was a few timing issues yesterday and, I feel like you've got to make sure the quality's there as well. So do you get so big that you've got so many people and it gets even harder to manage, or do you keep it sort of where it is? But, yeah.
On that, with the marathon and the half being sold out, and given that you've run sort of all distances from track to the marathon, do you feel that sometimes people move up too quickly? Like, the challenge of the longest event, I just want to do the longest event, even though for their overall development as an athlete, they should actually be doing the shorter races. Do you have that conversation with your athletes?
Yeah, and look, that's a really good question. I think people move up a lot too quick. And I always say too, if you want to be good at the marathon, you've got to be good at, 5K, 10K and half marathon first. And a lot of people that have sort of done a marathon, then they've come to me for coaching. I've sort of said, well, why don't we sort of focus on 5K, 10K training and getting better at the speed. And look, as we get older, I feel like it's easier to do like longer runs and I know what it's like. I think it's harder to do training for a 5K is harder for me now. I'm 45 than training for a marathon. But but that's a good, and like always telling people to step down. And I think the emotional aspect of the marathon too. You put so much energy into these races, and they take a lot to recover from as well. Whereas if you're training for like 5K, 10K or half, you can do more races, recover quicker, and it's not as taxing as well emotionally. So my coaching is all about not only physical but the emotional impact as well. So yeah, it's a good question, and I'm always telling people to step down a bit. Given
you're such a competitive person, and you mentioned you're 45 now, how do you go looking at someone like Sinead and Lisa Waitman and what the times they're running? Is it ever just spark and go, hold on a second, if I could get me to St. Moritz for 6 weeks and I'm there?
And in super shoes.
Yeah, and they're both older than me, yeah. So look, I just think they're absolutely fantastic with what they're doing as well, and managing everything. And look, I think I always think the further you are from being an elite athlete, the longer it takes to get back into that routine, because it's almost your whole life. Like you got to put everything into it to be at that sort of level as well. So yeah, I don't know if I could go back to it, but they inspire me because I stopped running competitively when I was was 32. Yes, that was a long time ago. I feel like London Olympics was ages ago. So, but look, sometimes I feel like getting into it more. But look, at the moment, all I've got time for is running with the pram with my 1-year-old. Like, I don't have time to train properly. I'd love to. I'd love to try the moose fart leg, or is that what it's called? I don't know what it is.
Get you back quick. Once a week for about 6 weeks. I reckon Benita could do it. We can get sponsor this.
You want another slab on that?
Road to
we
the
could.
road back, we could call it podcast series.
Well, yeah, my best recent result was 1:33 at Sydney Marathon, and I started like with the 2.5 hour group, so I was running through people at the start.
Potential's there. Potential's still there.
Benita, thank you. We told you time and we were about half an hour later than that time, so thanks for sitting through a bit more time of the show than you had to. We know you've got a whole lot of different commitments you need to be at today, but a massive thanks on behalf of the Inside Running podcast and the community here today, seeing someone like you in flesh. I was, when you wrote back to my email, I was very quick to screenshot it and send it through to the boys because I was super excited that you're going to be here today in person, and massive thanks for being here.
Thank you, and thanks guys. Thanks.
We're going to whistle through these last 3 segments, boys. I've got a whisper. Well, I don't have a whisper. I want a whisper. Like, I want some details about Brett Robinson's injury. It's worrying me. Big friend of the show, Brett Robinson, by the way. Tried to tune into his podcast and he was having the week off, maybe due to the injury, Croaks. You come on the podcast after a heart attack. So I'm like...
Not a heart attack, but maybe
kind
heart surgery.
Heart surgery. We still couldn't get rid of you for the week, so I couldn't get any info there. I'm just concerned. The Olympic marathon for him is 33 days away. I don't know what the injury is. Maybe it's just gone dark on Strava. And then it got me thinking, like, if he was injured and we've got a 2:08 guy who's just won the Gold Coast Marathon in 62 minutes, can they sub him in? Or once the team's announced, you might know more about this, once the team's locked in the IOC or AOC, what are they? AOC. Australian Olympic Committee. Yeah, once it's locked, it's locked.
Don't know. Perhaps there was talk of a sub. You remember when we were listening to the drama around Lisa? Oh, Lisa's a sub.
Yeah, but that was like talking Facebook comments. I don't think that was very reliable.
I'm not sure exactly about that. Maybe Andy would have had to be nominated at some point. Is that right?
I have no idea about this. This is just very much whisper.
But then it's probably up to the athlete to say I'm no good for the Olympics.
He might be fine and just off Strava.
But look at Jack last Olympics. Jack was injured going into that. He ran 5K and stepped off.
I'm not sure anyone else was qualified last Olympics, were they?
How big is it with like contracts and stuff? And if you start, you become for him it will be a 3-time Olympian? Like he would have clauses in his contract to start. Like that could be a big financial hit as well to withdraw. I don't know. I don't have anything locked in, but just keep your eyes on that the next 30 days. Moose on the loose, what do you got this week?
Oh, well, Croak kind of stole my thunder with the UK athletics. I was going to go there. So I'll go to the second preference. I've seen a lot on social media. For some reason, being on holiday when it's raining, you're on social media a lot.
You're always on social media.
Never.
You send me 10 screenshots of influencers a day.
Yeah, but he's the busiest man alive.
What I feel like I'm seeing a lot of at the moment, actually, is I'm being life coached by the 25-year-old influencer who's just discovered that a little bit of discipline in your life can make you a preacher, and how good it is for your body and your mind to start to lock into this discipline sort of lifestyle, or what I should be doing to make more money or to further my career or to build better relationships. But it's always the 25-year-old. Like, I wouldn't mind hearing that from like a 65-year-old successful person. I feel like they're in a good place to tell you that. But they don't have the social media. It just frustrates me it frustrates me in particular. A lot on social media does. This one here really gets me, though. Like that someone puts himself up on a pedestal and thinks that they can lecture other people on what they need to be doing to better themselves as people, when all they've really done is sort of just left school for 3 or 4 years.
Very good, very good. Listener question, Croaks, quick one here.
So having been on the Gold Coast for the last few days, it appears most people run up and down the coast. Given you bump into so many people you know, my question is, when should you stop to chat and when should you just acknowledge them and keep running?
It's a good question.
The answer here is it depends on the person. It always depends on the person whether they're getting a stop or not. So if I run past you, Croaks, I'm going. You get a nod of the hat.
Well, I wouldn't stop anyway.
It would affect his average pace too much if he stops.
Yeah. You want to just pretend you don't see Croaks when you're running past. But I don't it's such a common place. You can't be stopping every day for the same person. Imagine how boring that conversation would be.
Well, I reckon there's some black and white. So if you're in the middle of a session, no brainer. You're not going to stop and chat. You're 3 minutes into your 6 minute rep, Moose. You're not going to stop. So, yeah.
Fair.
For me, if I'm out for a steady hour, probably not going to stop unless it's somebody I haven't seen for a long time. Or you're EP. You call it EP, don't you? The one where
I'm stopping on an easy run if there's a friend who runs past. I'm going to say g'day. I stopped and saw some whales the other day. You would never stop for the whales.
I guess that's why I run. That's why I run in mulligans. I don't see anyone in mulligans. I don't have to stop. I don't like stopping on runs generally. I'm out there to get fit.
I'd stop for nearly everyone.
I'm stopping all the time, but if you stop all the time, your Strava looks like Ned Brockman.
All right. Oh, good from you.
Did you have that planned? Yes, you did.
What about this then? Out and back, right? You got an hour out, hour back. I love stopping at the turnaround and just doing nothing. I'm like, all right, I'm halfway through. How good's this? I get to run home now, but I just get to chill out for maybe 30 seconds. It's a great time of the run. No one else does that?
No one does that.
What, everyone else just turns around?
It's Yui stuff to do, mate. You've got to go to work.
Nah, stop. Take it in.
Okay.
Be in the moment.
We'll put it on a poll, Zaka, this week. When do you stop? When do you not stop? We'll get some listener feedback there. Boys, what's coming up between now and next Monday night when I talk to you? Croaks, you're doing an interview. We've got Paris Diamond League as well. Stewie's running a 3K. Jess Hull and Lyndon Hall are against Faith Kipyegon in a 1,500 metres. So a bit to look out for as well. First time I've seen Stewie race in a while. So maybe we'll be all saying, hey, you should be on the team after a quick 3K. Moose, what are you doing?
Still up here for a couple more days, actually. Hopefully the surf improves.
Yep. Croaks?
I'll be recording from a Melbourne hotel room next week. I'm down there for some testing and an MRI on my heart to see.
You've come a long way, haven't you, in 12 months when you think about that?
Well, it's been a year. It was a year last week that I was diagnosed. And
remember he put the pictures on social media? It was like the gown open and things really, on him and stuff there.
Really going for it there.
Please comment on my thing. That's good. So that Road to Gold Coast will be also out between, I think that's Thursday morning. That will be out because recording Wednesday night. We do have some special gifts from Lululemon to talk about right now as well. There are 20 times $100 gift vouchers under some random seats in the audience. So if you put your hand under your seat at the moment, you may find one of those $100 gifts.
You got one?
They're there. Good work. Yep.
There's a few empty seats you'd want to be checking.
If there's an empty seat either side of you, I'd be putting your hand under those ones pretty quick.
Look at them all race to the back corner.
Yeah. Hey? Put your hand up if you got one. They were there? Oh, yeah, plenty of... that's not 100. Oh, 20, sorry. 20, 100. I was expecting 100 hands to go up.
There's a whole back corner that's
yeah. On your way out, check a couple of those random empty seats at the very back there. We do have a connection and celebration event up on the rooftop at the moment.
Just explain what that is, because that's...
It's a mingle. There's some catering, some food and drinks as well. There's some music. The rooftop is very well set up. It's a very good environment up there. There's some, chefs, all that stuff's happening.
Your house, this is where you're staying? Your bed?
I am,
if you want to go
you can see my
check out where Brady sleeps?
You don't have to do that. You can see my cabin from up there as well. All the tickets did go for this event. There weren't as many tickets available for that as there were this, so we do understand that some people have missed out. We do also think, though, that some people who do have tickets for that will not turn up, like a couple of seats at the back there for this kind of setup today as well. So if you do not have a ticket, there'll be a Lululemon employee just out here in the lobby. They're waving to us at the back there. They're the people to see there. They will then, if you want to come up, they're the people to see, and then we'll see how many spots are available after everyone with a ticket rolls in. And then once somebody leaves there'll be also an opportunity to come back in just because the rooftops at capacity and you can only have X amount of people up there. So we're hoping anyone who wants to come will end up getting in, might be in 5 minutes time or 25 minutes time or straight away. So yeah, definitely that's how that procedure is going to work. Thank you to everyone who rocked up today. It is this show only happens because people listen to it. Brands only work with us because a stack of people listen to it. So without you guys, this show doesn't happen. Our Patreon supporters keep the show alive each and every week as well. So the people in the audience who are Patreon supporters, thank you very much as well. Thank you for giving up 2 hours on your Sunday afternoon after you probably escaped from your family for 5+ hours this morning if you're out there on the roads. And yeah, that's all from us. Thanks for being here. Cheers. See you later. That's episode number 349.
Today's episode of the Inside Running Podcast was powered by Lululemon. Test out the new Lululemon Beyond Field running shoe and their technical running apparel at your nearest Lululemon store and online at lululemon.com.au.